everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very excited about our presentation today. We've got a wonderful visitor. Her name is Elise Markham Johns, and she is a lifelong makeup and beauty junkie. She is trained with a top nationally known makeup artist, and she has spent the last 12 years focusing on makeup techniques and tips that specifically help women 50 and over get their glow back. She was a makeup artist for a major cosmetics line for 6 years, writes makeup articles for women 50 and up for two online sites, and has a YouTube channel, Boomer and Beyond Beauty with Elise, and is the founder of Boomer and Beyond Beauty, which offers online Zoom makeup consultations, in-person classes, presentations to women's groups, and YouTube videos. So please be sure to follow her on her really great YouTube channel, Boomer and Beyond Beauty with Elise. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Elise Markham Johns. Did I say that correctly?
You did. That
Oh,
was wonderful.
great.
It's not easy.
Thank
Well,
you so much for being here.
oh, my pleasure. I just want to thank Jenny and Matthew both. They've been wonderful to work with. So I'm excited to be with all of you ladies today. And we're going to wait until the end to answer questions, by the way. So if you could put questions in the chat box, and then we'll access those after the presentation if that works for everybody. Yep.
Great.
All right. Should we jump right in?
Sure.
Okay. Well, ladies, maybe you've had this experience of looking in the mirror in the morning and wondering, how the heck did that happen overnight? Maybe you've noticed that your once full eyebrows are undergoing a bit of a disappearing act. And what happened to that once smooth and glowing skin? Next. Thank you. Jenny's going to help me with move the slides along. Uh, so I just want to let you know you're not alone. I'm with you on this journey, and I am here to share some good news with you. With the right makeup and makeup techniques, research has shown that we can actually erase 5 to 20 years. Now, most of us really aren't interested in looking younger per se, but what most of us are interested in is looking like the very best version of ourselves at this point in our lives. So today, I'll be sharing with you the 4 most important techniques that you can help you really look your best. And most importantly, with the right makeup and techniques, we can look our best and feel our best. And there's actual research out there that shows that when we look our best, we actually do literally feel our best.
Mm.
Yale University, of all places, has actually done a study on good hair days and has determined that we do feel better if we're having a good hair day. I don't think we needed Yale to tell us that, but I thought it was
Wow.
interesting that they've done that study. Next. So I want to share with you Marcia's story. When I was working for a major cosmetic line, Marcia came in one day and shared that she wanted to have a full makeover. And the reason why was that she was getting married for the very first time at the age of 45. And of course, like all of us, she wanted to look beautiful on her wedding day. So we had a wonderful time. She was a delightful woman. But at the end, she said something that really made me sit back and think and was a light bulb moment for me. She said, "You know, my college roommate taught me how to do makeup, and I've been doing the same thing ever since." And I would say, of all the people I've come in contact, wonderful women I've come in contact with over the last 12 to 15 years, about 98.5% would say basically the same thing. Because how do we know, even if we know we should be doing something differently, how do we know what to do differently? In fact, I went on the websites of 6 major cosmetic companies, and many of them have makeup tutorials. And only one of them had a makeup tutorial video that featured a woman over the age of 30. And that was for about 10 seconds, basically. So, in addition to not knowing what to do differently, how do we know what products to use? Because there are so many makeup companies and so many different products. In fact, the last 10 years, the makeup industry has grown just exponentially. And now there are even a lot of indie brands in makeup that focus on things like clean makeup or Korean makeup. So all kinds of products out there, so it's hard to know what to choose from. Also, the third challenge, how do we know how and where to apply the makeup? Because as our skin has changed, as our facial structure changes, what we used to do in our 20s and 30s in terms of how we applied makeup, really we need to update that as well. And then, of course, how can we avoid picking the wrong products? Makeup is incredibly expensive. Even drugstore makeup has really gotten a lot more expensive in the last couple years, especially. So, I want to just touch on a few things that I think are important to think about. First of all, always check to see if there's a return policy. Interestingly enough, many drugstores will say online what their return policy is, but check at the individual stores. For instance, when we were living in the Tucson area for many years, there was a Walgreens near us, and online they said they accepted makeup returns. But when I went into that individual store, they did not. So you really need to check individually. I took my business elsewhere to the CSV across the street where they did accept returns. Also, something that we're hesitant to do, but I want to encourage you to do it, is ask for samples of things at Sephora if you go there or at department stores. They are so happy to give you samples of cream or liquid products. And that can be so valuable because notorious the lighting in most department stores is notoriously bad, so you really can't see very well how things are going to look on you. If you can take that product home as a sample and check it out in natural light, in your own bathroom light, and also some of us have reactions to certain ingredients in products, so that way you can see if that product's going to work for you. And the reason consultants are happy to give samples is obviously they're hoping you'll come back and buy something. So they are more than happy to hand those out. And speaking of consultants, and I don't mean to sound ageist here, but if you do go to a department store, try to talk to someone roughly a little bit older or within your demographic. And I say that only because that person will know the products in her line or his line that are going to work best for older women. And that's because those are the products that work best for her. So she will really know her line well. So that can be helpful. There's also a site called rankandstyle.com. That is a very, if you're just, you have no idea where to start with a particular makeup product, let's say you're looking for a new drugstore mascara, there are hundreds of them out there. If you go to rankandstyle.com, it will list the top 10 products in various makeup categories, and they filter it down. So you would go to mascara first, then you would go to drugstore mascara, and it would give you a list of the top 10. Now, what I do want to say is those top 10s are figured through sales and through also product reviews, a lot of different ways. But who actually has the most money to spend in advertising their products? It's the major cosmetic companies. So most of the products you'll see listed are from the major cosmetic companies. So that's just something to be aware of. But I will say that having looked at a lot of those lists, I would say they're really pretty spot on with a lot of the recommendations that are listed. Also, just want to mention reviews of products. Before you buy a makeup product, if you can check out reviews, and especially if there's demographic information on the age range of who is reviewing the product, that can be extremely helpful. It's not always there, but if you can look for women who are older who have tried the product, obviously their reaction may be a whole lot different than someone in their 20s and 30s who has tried that product. Okay, next. A little bit why about I'm passionate about this work that I do, and this is my belief, and you may or may not agree with me on this, but my feeling is that the beauty and fashion industries pretty not much ignore us after the age of 50. In fact, there's a really interesting woman by the name of Andrea Q. Robinson. She's a former senior executive at Estee Lauder, L'Oreal, and several other brands. Also, a former beauty editor at many major beauty magazines, the names of which you would recommend if I shared them with you. Well, she wrote in her book, most men running the major beauty corporations think we've lost it at 50 and aged out of their makeup market. They're afraid to address our specific needs with anything other than anti-aging creams because they're worried that they will alienate their younger consumer base even though we're the largest demographic with more money to spend. And frankly, we don't really see ourselves represented a lot in the media. For instance, who is in the commercials for anti-aging creams? Usually a woman who doesn't have a wrinkle in sight, or a model, or an actress. So it's really unfortunate. However, if you want to go to next, Jenny, things are changing a bit. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Um, there is a little bit of progress to report for women over 50. 77-year-old model Mae Musk is a CoverGirl brand ambassador. She has been with them for a number of years. 21 models over the age of 50 walked the runways in New York, Paris, London, and Milan. It's not a huge percentage, but certainly an improvement. Helen Mirren, at the age of 72, and Jane Fonda, when she was 79, walked the L'Oreal runway at 2017 Paris Fashion Week and looked smashing. Now let's take a look at them with the next slides. There's Helen Mirren with that gorgeous red lip. And
Mm-hmm.
next, we can see Jane Fonda, who also looks absolutely amazing. Next. So today, ladies, we're going to focus on some skincare tips plus 4 research-proven makeup techniques that can help those of us 50 plus look and feel our best. Next. So skincare, I want to touch on briefly. These are the 4 things that all of us are familiar with. The importance of cleansing our face, exfoliating, moisturizing, and protecting with SPF. But I just want to touch on briefly something with each of these. For cleansing, if you wear sunscreen or makeup, even just a little bit of makeup, highly recommend something that's called in the beauty industry double cleansing. And that's when you first remove the first layer, and I highly recommend using micellar water to do that. It's a specialized kind of makeup remover that's just recently been developed. It's carried by most brands. They have some form of micellar water. And the reason I recommend it is it does a wonderfully gentle job of removing makeup. Those little micelles that are in that water actually attract dirt and grease. So they do a wonderful job of getting rid of makeup. And just, I had a perfect example of this myself not too long ago because I decided, well, when I would go walking in the morning in Arizona, I would absolutely slather on SPF, as you might imagine, and I would always wipe it off with micellar water before I hopped in the shower. But one day I was preoccupied. I hopped in the shower without taking my SPF off, which was tinted, by the way. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I took my washcloth and I just scrubbed my face a couple of times in the shower. But after I got out of the shower, I thought, I'm just going to test this. So I took a cotton pad, I doused it with micellar water, went over my face, and that cotton pad was full of tinted SPF. So it's really important to get our skin really clean if we've worn SPF or any kind of makeup. That's because if we use any kind of serums for our skin or moisturizers, we want them to be able to be most effective. And if there's a barrier of makeup or SPF, they aren't going to be able to reach our skin effectively and do the best work that they can. So highly recommend micellar water. By the way, one that I absolutely love was created by the inventor of micellar water. It's called Bioderma. It's probably the best one on the market. Highly recommend. It's easily available through Amazon. Second, exfoliating. Now, if you have rosacea, you do not want to exfoliate. That will irritate your skin. But exfoliating our skin takes care of getting rid of dead skin cells. And what dead skin cells do is they make our skin look duller. And one big difference between younger skin and mature skin is the amount of glow we have in our skin. So removing those dead skin cells becomes even more important because they don't turn over as faster as we get older, and they don't slough off our skin just by themselves. We have to actually remove them. So exfoliating twice a week with some kind of product, and again, most makeup companies will have a product of this kind. One I particularly love is from Tatcha, which is an American company, but it's based on Japanese principles. They do have a wonderful foaming cleanser and this is as an exfoliator. Moisturizing, so important, as we know. For most of us, our skin gets drier, not for everyone, but for most of us, it does get drier. So having a good moisturizer, really helps sort of plump up the skin so it looks more healthy. And if you do wear makeup, there's one interesting thing is I recommend using a lighter moisturizer under makeup and using a richer, fuller moisturizer at night. And that's because makeup can actually sink into a heavy, fuller moisturizer. So if you have makeup that sort of disappears once you put it on, that may be what's happening. And then, of course, protecting a wonderful SPF. And um, they, as most of you know, they do put SPF in foundations, but it's usually 15 or 20, sometimes up to 50, but highly recommend using a separate SPF because if you got adequate SPF coverage with a foundation, you would have to put so much foundation on your face, it would look like a mask. And I don't think any of us want to do that. And then, of course, the other important product, as any esthetician or dermatologist will tell us, is some kind of retinol. There are prescription retinols that are stronger, and there are also many over-the-counter retinol programs or products, and they help with fine lines more than anything else. The only problem with over the counter is they're not required to say how much retinol is actually in them. So it's kind of a guessing game in terms of what we get with over the counter products. Let's go on to the next slide, Jenny. But the least talked about, most important thing for our skin is something that was really emphasized by Dr. Anthony Ewan. He's a well-known, what he calls himself, a holistic plastic surgeon. He's author and host of a PBS program called The Age Fix, and has a book called The Age Fix as well. Most important thing for our skin to look glowing and healthy is what we eat. I think we all know this drill: fruits and vegetables, whole grain products, less meat, more plant-based foods. And there is one food that actually equals wrinkles. I imagine that what's going through your mind, some of you probably absolutely know the answer to this. Unfortunately, it is sugar. But the good news is, as Dr. Ewan says, dark chocolate and red wine are not such a bad thing. So we have that to comfort ourselves with. Next, please. So let's go on to two of the four makeup techniques that can help us the most. Number one is to brighten our lips. Number two is to brighten our cheeks. And this is based on some really fascinating research that was done not too many years ago. This research company really included people from all different ethnicities all over the world. And what they were trying to find out is what makes us most attractive to other people. What they determined is that what makes us most attractive to other people is the amount of facial contrast we have. And what happens as we get older? We lose facial contrast. Our skin actually gets paler, our lips get paler. We know what starts to happen with our eyebrows, a lot of white, gray brow hairs. So we need to put back some of that contrast. So it's very important to go with a lipstick color and a blush color that works for you. Now, what works for you is very important because there's some colors that will work better for some of us than others. And that's because we all have different skin undertones. We have either a cool undertone, neutral, or a warm undertone. I imagine some of you remember a book called Color Me Beautiful back from the 1980s, where we all walked around with color swatches to find out what clothing colors worked best for us. Well, she also included makeup information in there, although I sort of didn't pay attention to that. I wish I had paid more attention to that early on. We have blue skin undertone, which is cool, or we have a golden skin undertone, which is warm, or a neutral, which is equal amounts of warm and cool. It's important to know which we have, not only for clothing colors that will look best on us, but also for our makeup. I want to skip on to the next one, Jenny. There are 9 ways, if you don't know your undertone, to determine. We can't do all of these here today, but there's some you may want to check out on your own. One of the most important ways is to look at the underside of your wrists, the veins. If those are very blue, you have a cool undertone. If they're more green, you have a warm undertone. If they kind of look somewhere in between blue-green, most likely you have a neutral undertone. Now, this gets harder as we get older to see those veins, and it also is easier if you compare those veins with someone else's veins, which obviously mine are very blue. I don't know how well that's going to come across, but I have a very cool undertone. The other thing you can do is drape. Now you have to cover your hair for this and not be wearing any makeup, but drape pink fabric or orange fabric around your shoulders and cover your hair. Does pink make your skin really look wonderful, or does orange or yellow make your skin look better? If pink is better on you, you have a cool undertone. If orange or yellow, you have a warm undertone. And then, ladies, let's try a quick visualization exercise. Picture in your mind, close your eyes, picture a bright coral lipstick and a bright pink lipstick. Now, you may not like either of those, but you probably are drawn to one more than the other. If you're more drawn to the pink, you most likely have a cool undertone. More drawn to the coral, most likely you have a warm undertone. This next one is hard because you really have to wear big chunky jewelry to make a determination, but do you look better in gold or silver jewelry? Silver is better usually on cooler undertone people, gold on warm, and if you're neutral, you can wear both. This next one is an important one. It really does tell us something, and that is there something you wear close to your face that you usually get compliments on? So a top or a scarf. Is it a cool color or a warm color? If it's a cool color, most likely you have a cool undertone. If it's a warm color, most likely you have a warm undertone. Go on to the next one, Jenny. This one is a little iffy, but sometimes this can be helpful. If you burn and don't tan, most likely you have a cool undertone. Not always the case, but fairly regularly. If you tan right away, most likely you have a warm undertone. If you burn and then tan, most likely a warm or a neutral undertone. Now, this is hard to do. Obviously, you have to do this on your own, and that's bend your ear forward. On the back of your ear, does that skin look more pink, yellow, or neutral? If it looks more pink, you have a cool undertone, more yellow, warm undertone. Okay, and then another one you'd have to do on your own is take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, hold it next to the bottom part of your face and your neck without wearing makeup. Are the undertones of your skin next to that white more pink or more yellow? Pink, you have a cool undertone, yellow, warm. This next one is a good one. Number 9. What neutral colors are most flattering to you? Most of us either look better in bright white, black, or gray, or in ivory or tan. I have a beautiful beige blouse that has gorgeous lace on it that I absolutely love, but if I wear it, it absolutely drains the color from my face, makes me totally look washed out. So if you have a cool undertone, you're going to look better in bright white, black, or gray. If you have a warm undertone, tan, ivory, or beige will work better for you. Okay, you can flip to the next one. Now, these are colors that work for both clothing and makeup. Obviously, only some of them are appropriate for makeup, but here are the best colors for warm and cool undertones. If you have a warm undertone, blushes or lipsticks in peach, peachy pink, orange or coral colors, or orangey reds are going to be absolutely fantastic on you. If you have a cool undertone, basically pinks, purples, violets, um, deep blue-based reds, all of those colors will be stunning on you. And if you're neutral, you can probably wear any of these colors, except you don't want to probably wear the extremely bright versions of um, either of those colors. Okay, let's flip to the next one, Jane. Here's some tips for lips. We can see here some actresses that you probably are familiar with. Shirley Jones on the left has beautiful cool tone, and look how beautiful that gorgeous cool tone red lipstick looks on her skin. And to the right, Julianne Moore, who has a warm undertone, wearing a beautiful soft coral blush and a soft coral lipstick that absolutely looks stunning on her. Next slide, please. Again, the woman up on the left wearing a beige top, much more of a coral, a peachy kind of lip color and blush color. And the woman on the right, much more of a cool tone, beautiful sort of a violet toned lipstick that looks stunning on her. Next slide. Some more tips for lips. Probably we want to avoid extremely dark lipsticks, which do tend to age us a bit. Instead, Think about choosing lipstick with some luminosity, shine, pearl, or metallic qualities rather than matte. That's because those will more light is attracted to those kinds of products, which will give you a more radiant look. It also can help our lips look bigger, which our lips get smaller as we get older. And don't we wish other parts of our bodies got smaller as we got older? But lips is one of them. However, if you have issues with lipstick feathering, and many of us do with those vertical lines around our mouths, I know I have a huge issue with this. Choose a matte lipstick, but put gloss over it, but just put the gloss in the center. Don't go all the way out to the edge of the lips because then that gloss will definitely run into those fine lines. Usually the rule of thumb is to choose a lip color 1/2 to 1 shade darker than our natural lip color. And um, let's move on to the next slide. And let's talk next about our blush. Location of blush is extremely important. All of us, I think, remember the old adage to put blush on the apples of our cheeks, but ladies, where have those apples gone? Gravity has had its way with us. So we want to put blush on the middle of our cheekbones and take it upwards to help do some lifting. We don't want to have it closer than 2 finger widths from our nose either. And we can go to the next slide. More tips for our cheeks. If you have dry skin, as many of us do, probably avoiding powder blush and going to cream and liquid blushes is our best bet. Powder blushes will work better if you have oily skin, however. And the reason for cream and liquid blushes with dry skin is that powder blush tends to settle into lines so cheek skin looks splotchy and uneven. Powder blush can also accentuate wrinkles. Cream blushes meld into the skin and look more natural. And always start with a small dab, build to a natural color. And if you use liquid blushes, they're usually more pigmented. So what I recommend is putting some on the back of the hand and then taking a brush and swirling it around to get an even coat on the brush and then tapping it on. And you want to tap it on so you don't disturb the makeup underneath. All right, next. Blush looks to avoid and admire. I think we can also see that turquoise eyeshadow look from the 80s on that one photo on the left, but a little too heavy and low in the blush department on the left side, as well as that middle photo. And a much softer, just flush of blush on the right is really our best bet. Next slide. More blush looks to admire. Again, just soft, natural blush colors. Next. And a couple of more. And as you can see, the blush color makes a huge difference. Jane Fonda, who has a warm undertone, is going with those coral warm colors, whereas our model on the upper left is going with more cool colors. Next. All right, let's go to the third technique that makes a huge difference for us, and that is eyebrows. Eyebrows are probably the most neglected feature on most women's faces, but the easiest to improve and one of the most important. And if you've ever doubted what a difference eyebrows can make, take a look at this next photo of actress Anne Hathaway. This is what eyebrows can do for us. They frame our eyes. They really make a huge difference. Next. And have you ever noticed how good and evil characters are defined by their eyebrows? Look at these Disney characters. Evil Disney characters, very thin, arched eyebrows, whereas the Disney princesses had much more filled in, natural looking eyebrows. Next. Eyebrows, what they do for us, they lift our face, they make our face look slimmer, make our eyes look bigger and brighter, make us look younger, quite honestly. Next. And here you can see what a difference filling in eyebrows made on this younger woman. She just has naturally softer colored eyebrows. And by filling them in a little bit, they really pull the whole look of her face into harmony. Next. And this is a model on TV. Obviously, she's done a few more things besides eyebrows, but look at a difference filling in her eyebrows has made, along with that lipstick difference as well. Next. And here's someone we recognize, Jennifer Lopez, with a thin eyebrow look on the left and a fuller eyebrow look on the right. And look what a difference that makes in how she looks, depending on how filled in her eyebrows are next. Another example, Angelina Jolie with that thin eyebrow look from years back, and then the more natural eyebrow look today. Next. And questions that arise, especially as we get older, is where our brows should stop and start, because we start to lose brow hairs. Especially some of us lose brow hairs on the tail and some at the very front of the brows. So when you take a small pencil or a small eyebrow brush and go up from the side of your nose to the edge of front edge of your brow, that's where your brow should start. And then if you swivel that brush over toward the end of your eye and go straight up, that's where your brow should end. However, if you have downturned eyes or droopy eyes, you want to end the eyebrows a little higher, because that will, an eyebrow coming down lower will make the face look even droopier. So on to the next slide, please. How have our eyebrows changed? I think many of us can identify with one or more of these issues, vanishing brows, as you see here. Next. And what we can do for vanishing brows, there are two very helpful tools that we can use: an angled brow brush and a spoolie. And I don't know if you can, a spoolie is basically like a mascara wand. And those can be extremely helpful because the spoolie helps brush the hairs up and out. And then after the brow product is applied, the spoolie also blends and softens the brow product so the brows look more natural. It also removes any excess product from the brows. And then we have a lot of choices with brow products: powders, pencils, pomades, pens, to fill in patchy spots and make the arches look a little thicker. You may also want to take a good multivitamin that has biotin and zinc, which also can help. Next. Another way our eyebrows have changed: disappearing tails. And filling in those tails again can make a huge difference. Next. So we can lengthen our brow tails with a brow pencil, pomade, pen, and then blend them in with the rest of the brow hairs with a spoolie. And if you have very few hairs on the tail or very sparse brows, a product that adheres to bare skin, like a wax-based pencil, pomade, pen, or brow formula that has fibers built into it, can be especially helpful. One I highly recommend, and I'm using it more and more as my eyebrows get sparser and sparser, is e.l.f.'s Wow Brow. It's very inexpensive. It's either $4 or $5. And I'll just swipe it on. It has a little brush and gel. And here's a sample of one. And it fills in those brows with those little fibers. It can make a huge difference. Also, if you have very few hairs on the tail, you can choose from another product. It's called Benefits Gimme Brow. So those, it's a little more expensive. So I really highly recommend e.l.f.'s Wow Brow. It does just as good a job and it's far less expensive. Next. Graying brows can be an issue for some of us as well. Next slide. We can camouflage colorless brow hairs with powder, pencil, pomade, or tinted brow gel. I do not recommend plucking. We need all those brow hairs, ladies. But I once did an experiment on one of my YouTube videos where I tested about 10 different eyebrow gels to see which ones actually covered white and gray hair. And the reason I did it is because powders often don't cover those white and gray hairs because they're a different texture. They're kind of shiny, and brow powders don't adhere to them very well. So there were two products that I came away with that actually do the very best job of covering gray and white brow hairs. And one of them is a drugstore product that I use all the time. It's Maybelline. It's called Express Brow Gel Mascara. Does an amazing job. You literally just touch gray and white brow hairs and it covers the gray and white. Next. Another way our eyebrows can change: some of those wiry hairs start peeking out at various areas. Next. We can trim those hairs with the small scissors. You want to be careful not to trim it too much. It's easy to do. You can fix wiry hairs in place with a brow gel. There are some brow gels specifically made with more hold Or you can just take some hairspray, spray it on a brow spoolie, and comb the wiry hairs in place that way. Next. Eyebrow colors to use if you have dark hair. Usually the best rule of thumb is to go one shade lighter. If you have light hair, go 1 to 2 shades darker. If you have gray hair, either go with a gray eyebrow powder or taupe. It's really a matter of personal preference. And I want to mention, there is one company I've recently learned about called I Embrace that literally makes all different shades of gray powders and pencils for our more mature eyebrows. Uh, Most of the time out in the marketplace, if one makeup company has one gray product, it usually is going to be too dark for many of us. So what's wonderful about this company is that they have, I think, 5 or 6 different choices of gray colors. So you can find one that really matches your gray or white hair. Next, the latest look and brows, which perhaps not for us at this point in our lives, at least. Next. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is evening out our skin tone, which is the other very important thing to do. I don't think any of us can get to this age without a few things popping up like age spots, redness, discoloration, hyperpigmentation. Next. So using a product that can even out that skin tone can make a huge difference. That could be a tinted moisturizer if you don't like the feel of foundation. Tinted moisturizers are lighter weight, although most foundations these days are so lightweight, so different from the makeup we grew up with. Thank goodness. Their BB creams, CC creams, foundation, concealer. If you don't like the feel of foundation all over your face, maybe you just want to take a concealer, which provides better coverage than foundation, tap it on where you need some coverage and just pat it in. And maybe that's all you need to do. Also, another thing that really works incredibly well is to take a couple swipes of concealer and take a couple drops of facial oil, mix them together, and use that all over your face because that brings more moisture to your face. It helps that concealer blend in beautifully. It's a beautiful look. Next. And here's the difference evening out our skin tone can make. Huge difference for many of us. Next. Well, ladies, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've covered skincare tips, makeup techniques numbers 1 and 2. We learned the importance of brightening our cheeks and lips. We determined the undertone of our skin to know what colors will work best for us in the way of lipstick and blush. We learned what lip and blush colors do work best and also some additional lip and blush tips. We also focused on makeup technique number 3 was about filling in our eyebrows and how to deal with different eyebrow challenges. And then makeup technique number 4, evening out our skin tone. Next. So if you're interested in learning more, as Jenny mentioned, I have a YouTube channel where I do YouTube videos every Thursday. Facebook page, also website. I have a weekly newsletter, which I love doing, which not only is makeup tips and techniques, but also just some fun things about movies and books and TV and other things that we might also enjoy, fashion occasionally as well. And also, I love doing online makeup consultations. They're a lot of fun. So just touch base with me at boomerandbeyondbeauty@gmail.com if you'd like any more information on any of those. Thank you, ladies. I've enjoyed being with you. This has been a pleasure, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
I had a question actually because I saw you mention BB cream and CC cream, and I've never known what the difference was.
Yeah, it's very confusing. The BB cream stands for Beauty Balm. CC is color correcting. I don't even know really if you need to be as concerned about those because I think those are sort of fading from the marketplace at this point.
Okay.
But the BB creams were basically engineered, and the beauty balms were engineered really to have more skincare ingredients in them. And then the color correcting was more skin adjusting color.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
good question. And one other thing I should mention that I didn't mention about eyebrows. One thing, if our eyebrows get really sparse, something that can be really helpful for doing eyebrows quickly is a
Oh,
stencil, because then we can fill in each brow so they match, and also a stencil that has uh, this kind of stretchy band so you can put it around your head So you don't have, usually stencils come one single one, and then you have to hold it with one hand, do it with, and you're not always assured that you're going to get your eyebrows to match that way. So this is a wonderful way to do it, to fill in your eyebrows quickly and easily using that. And they're easily available on Amazon.
Cool. Um, I didn't even know those existed, those
I
eyebrow
know.
stencils.
I only recently have I found the ones with the elastic, which are great.
That's great. Um, yeah, that is cool. I was also wondering about, and I don't know if you mentioned this. If you did, I apologize,
Oh,
but
we
lip
went,
liner.
oh yes. Thank you. I should have mentioned
Yeah.
that. That is so, as our lips get smaller, it's amazing what lip liner can do. I think maybe we probably remember that really overlined look of the 80s, and that's not what
Mhm.
I'm
That's
talking
coming
about.
back now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what we can do, instead of putting lip liner just on the outline of our lips, we can do it on the outer edge of our lips. And believe it or not, just that additional change can make a big difference. So highly recommend lip liner, not only because it helps our lipstick stay in place, but also helps if we have lipstick that feathers or bleeds into those fine lines.
Hmm.
So really can make a difference.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then I have one more question. This is really from my mom loves to put bronzer on my face. And I don't know if it should be applied in a similar way to blush or if you have any tips about bronzer, if we should use
Yeah.
that.
Oh, bronzer. Then there's contouring, and those can be
Yeah.
so confusing, understandably so, because sometimes they're used interchangeably and they're really not interchangeable. Bronzers really warm up the face, and you want to put them where the sun naturally would hit.
Okay.
Would be on the higher points of the face, the front, the top of the forehead, this part of the cheeks, over the bridge of the nose a little bit. Contour, what it can do is it's a cool shade usually. And when we put on foundation, we're evening out our entire face. What contouring does is give the face more definition. Now, many women, understandably, don't really want to go to the trouble of contouring, but it can really make a difference to put some under our cheekbones, especially if we have jowls that are starting to not be quite as taut. A little contour on the outer edge here. If you have a high forehead, a little contour here. And basically, what I recommend is sort of a C into a backward three is where you apply contour. And then blending it in really well because the last thing we want is two dark stripes down the
Mhm.
side of our face. So usually taking a foundation brush and going over the edges of blush or contour blends it into the skin really effectively.
Okay. Oh, that's so helpful. Wow, I feel like I've learned so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
my pleasure. I obviously I love talking about this. So if anyone comes up with any questions later, you can always email me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I know sometimes you think, oh my gosh, I wish I would have asked that, or why didn't I think of that? So feel free to get in touch with me. I'm happy to help.
Great. You are so lovely, Elise. Thank you so much for joining us today. For everyone that's watching, we will be editing this video and posting it onto YouTube and onto our learning management system. Give it about a week or two and we'll share that with you. Please be sure to check out Elise on her YouTube channel and reach out if you want any consultations over Zoom for makeup. I really loved your presentation and learned so much, so I hope you all enjoyed. And we look forward to maybe having you back again someday. I would love to learn more.
Thank you, Jenny. It's been a pleasure working with you. And ladies, loved having you with, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.